What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back with another superstar from the world of combat sports. Today we get to talk to Chatri Sityodtong, the founder and CEO of One Championship. They got a massive card coming at you on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, out in Broomfield, Colorado, just outside of Denver. I've been there. I've been to that arena. It is going to be rocking and rolling. They're already sold out, and it's stacked. You got Demetrious Johnson versus Adriano Moraes. Part 3 as your main event. Some other great fights to fill the card that we'll be touching on. Welcome back, Chatri, to Junkie Radio. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much, George. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I love being here.
Awesome. Well, we love having you. We love having you stateside. And, hey, everyone's pumped up. We still got a week to go, but everybody's pumped up about your debut in the United States. I'm sure you are as well. What's the biggest thing, aside from the fights, What are you most pumped up about? What's this doing for the business of One Championship?
Well, on a personal level, the last few days, I've been here now for the whole week, and it's been very surreal for me. And at the same time, I have a deep sense of gratitude. Many years ago, there was a point when I came to America with one suitcase full of my life's belongings. And I was dirt poor. My mother lived with me in my dorm room when I was in school, and I in a tiny little single dorm room. I slept in the bed. I slept on the floor. My mom slept in the bed, and we were living on $4 a day. And it's surreal for me to come back here. And again, a deep sense of gratitude. America is truly one of the greatest countries in the world. I lived the American dream. I was able to escape my days in poverty because I worked hard and I did good, I did right, and that's the beautiful thing about America. It gave me an incredible education, an incredible work experience. I lived here for over 18 years, and so for me to come back now with One and bring the entire world of martial arts, the very best of the best world championship fighters on the planet, coming here across disciplines, showcasing the best the world has to offer, and quite frankly, showcasing something that that America has never seen before. We are introducing the world of martial arts to American fans. And that's an exciting thing. As a lifelong martial artist, I've been doing Muay Thai for 38 years, still train every day, been a student, competitor, teacher, and now CEO. Jiu-Jitsu I've been doing for about 16 years, brown belt under Renzo Gracie. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's surreal. Here I am in LA in my hotel room, and it's just surreal, to think that next Friday we'll be live on prime time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for free, live on Amazon Prime out of Denver, Colorado. It blows my mind.
Folks, 200 million of you have Amazon Prime. You got to flood it next Friday. Give these guys some love, because I'm telling you, they brought a great fight card, and you get to see it for free, like Chatri just mentioned. Chatri, is any of this having to do sorry, let me rephrase this. You often get dismissed as the promotion, the global brand, the powerhouse that's in Asia, while we in North America talk about UFC, PFL, Bellator, obviously. But is part of this kind of like planting that flag and just letting everyone know this is what we're all about? We're headed this way, whether it's slowly but surely, or maybe next year you unload a bunch of shows on us. How much does this have to do about staking your claim?
I wouldn't say it's staking the claim, George. What I would say is that it's a natural progression of our global expansion. The U.S. market is the biggest sports market in the world, and we are a global giant. And I don't want to use any marketing rhetoric. There's a lot of misinformation out there by other organizations by saying they're second largest or third largest, whatever it is. Nielsen, the ratings agency, came out with an industry report last year. It's available on Nielsen.com. You can download it. Of the top 20 largest global sports media properties by viewership and engagement, and we were ranked number 5 across TV, social, digital, organic video views, and TV unique viewership numbers. That was eye-opening for us. I knew we were going very fast. I had no idea that we were top 5 in the world. It was just shocking. But what was interesting was number 8 was UFC, number 4 was NBA, Bellator I think was number 20. And if you just look at the facts, hard facts from that industry report, Our TV unique reach viewership numbers were 405 or 410 million. UFC's was 259 million, and Bellator's was 11 million. And obviously, PFL didn't make that list. And these were literally the Champions League. It was NFL. It was Major League Baseball. It was F1. It was all the biggest properties, the folks that you'd expect. What's exciting though is that 3 out of the top 20 were combat sports. So combat sports is raging hot around the world. But or if you want to take even just like a fan perspective, let's take Facebook for example. UFC has about 40 million fans on Facebook. We have about 38 million fans on Facebook. Bellator, I think, has around 3 million, and PFL has about a million. So that's just to give you the sense of scale of viewership numbers of fandom. And even if you look at the athletes, how many followers do Bellator athletes or PFL athletes have relative to UFC and one championship athletes, right? The real fandom and the numbers speak for themselves. That's, again, stripping away all the marketing from any organization. Just look at hard facts and numbers. And then if you look at what investors are saying, right? Investors are only valuing 2 global combat sports properties, $1 billion and above, UFC and one. We're the only ones in the world that the smartest investors in the world are valuing more than $1 billion plus. And in UFC's case, most recently 12 billion, of course. And so, I really don't view this as a competition. I really view this as a global duopoly. UFC has a dominant market share in the Western Hemisphere. We have a dominant market share in the Eastern Hemisphere. And we're 2 global giants with truly the 2 best rosters on the planet. And we have a very different approach. UFC is the world's largest MMA organization. One is the world's largest martial arts organization. UFC focuses only on mixed martial arts. We have mixed martial arts. We have Muay Thai. We have kickboxing. We have grappling. And we have a whole different plethora of martial arts disciplines. But what is very clear is that we have the very best of the best martial arts world champions, across all disciplines. So whether it's Demetrious Johnson as the GOAT, fighting his most dangerous opponent in Adrian Moraes, they have 1 knockout apiece. And this trilogy fight, interestingly, by the way, DJ said could be his very last fight. So there's a little bit of a twist to this US debut. It may be the first and last time Americans ever get to see Demetrious Johnson, live on ground as a part of one. And so it's obviously huge news. But then again, the way I see things unfolding, the world is big enough to have 2 giant players like ONE and UFC. And we're very, very different.
Well, listen, let me jump in here real fast. So, you've been in this sport a long time. So have we. But I'm drawing parallels from 2006, 2007, when arguably Pride had that swag of being either number 1 or UFC number 2 or vice versa, however you saw it. It was really, really cool. And Pride finally made the venture over to the United States, luckily here to Las Vegas. Man, they had some great shows, and they made quite a splash from that show because we were able to connect dots. And I felt like they got a little bit of the validation that maybe they lacked from the North American audience. The rest of the world knows you guys are legit. You guys are awesome. I've seen those Nielsen reports as well. Very impressive, by the way, that we can hang with the NBA and everyone else. Speaking of the NBA, you're in LA. Go get some Laker gear. Lose the Knicks stuff. That's our squad. But no, seriously, I'm seeing something like that. And I don't know if you remember those times when Pride came over and did that and had that splash. And, granted, in the end, they wound up getting bought by the UFC. But I felt like they really, really validated everything what people were saying, that they had top talent and you needed to tune in regardless if they would have continued on with their shows or not.
Yeah. So I like and don't like the comparison to Pride. I like it because I still think their production value, and at the time their athletes were the best in the world.
Right.
So I appreciate that from a fan perspective. What I disagree with is their business practices, which eventually caused them to go bankrupt, right? They had tax and accounting issues, and they were discovered to be run by the Yakuza, which is the mafia in Japan. And that led to the demise of Pride, unfortunately. Still, I look back and say they still had an incredible product and showcased incredible fights. What's different with ONE is that we're institutionally backed, meaning that some of the biggest and most blue chip investors, institutional investors, have backed ONE. The likes of Sequoia Capital, which invested in, anything from Yahoo to YouTube and Google, I believe, and Facebook and all the tech giants. I think we're Oracle. A lot of the household tech names have come from Silicon Valley, right? The Sequoia Capital, and they're arguably the most successful venture capital firm in history, 50-year history. And they're our largest shareholder out of Silicon Valley, as well as out of their Asia office. We have folks like Guggenheim out of the US, out here in LA, $300 billion fund. We have the Qatar Investment Authority, the Qatar government, as backers, shareholders of ONE. We have the Singapore government in Temasek and GIC as shareholders of ONE, backers of ONE. So when you look at the quality, it's very different. We've raised $500 million in institutional investor capital over the last, which is the most in history, by the way, of any organization. I think UFC raised $200 million, if I'm not mistaken, in its history. I can't recall how much Bellator raised or didn't raise, and I think PFL is only in the tens of millions. So the scale of operation, the depth of roster, the institutional backing is just very different. And it's sorry to talk all this business mumbo jumbo to all the fans out there, but I want people to know that it's very different. And I think that's the proof is in the pudding. It's obviously in our product, our roster. It's in our viewership numbers. It's in the fact that we're the only global Asian sports media property in history to this day, right? If you look at that top 20 list that Nielsen came out with, there's only one property out of Asia, and it's ONE.
I do want to say this, Chatri. Hopefully our wires aren't crossed. I'm talking more about the competitive side, the fights themselves. I see. Not necessarily the business or that kind of validation. I'm talking about like, hey, if the UFC were to send 5 guys to ONE, they'd go 5-0. You hear from a lot of fans that go, yeah. And I think that's something that was proven when Pride came over and their athletes did well, or when Strikeforce came over and their athletes did well. I'm talking about the competition inside the actual cage. Your guys, you got some great athletes, man. We rank a lot of your athletes in our USA Today Sports rankings, and we recognize, but unfortunately, sometimes you have this crowd in North America that that they're myopic. They have blinders on. They don't see the talent that's outside of the United States. And I think this is a good chance for them to see it, connecting the dots a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think, I have a lot of respect for UFC. I have a lot of respect for UFC athletes, but fans in Asia always ask me, would you ever do a ONE versus UFC event? And I'd love that, because, as a lifelong martial artist, I have a very educated view on how good an athlete is, meaning that, you see, you have to strip away a lot of the marketing rhetoric and a lot of marketing that either self-promotion does from athletes self-promoting themselves or their respective organizations. You have to look at the raw skill set and their credentials. So let's take a look at like Demetrious Johnson, right? If you take away all his credentials, all his achievements, and you just look at him as a martial artist, look at his striking, look at his wrestling, look at his ground game, his submissions, look at his transitions, look at his cage work, and then you look at his athletic attributes, look at his balance, his speed, his explosiveness, his cardio, look at his fight IQ. When you put all of that together, forget about the credentials. You look at that today and just say, wow, you can already tell this guy's, amongst the best in the world. Then you add the credentials of he's the only athlete in history to have won belts, the 2 most prestigious belts of the 2 largest organizations in the world, UFC and ONE. And I think he still holds the record of the most title defenses in the UFC. Then you look at his opponents, then you look at everything else, and you say, man, this is the GOAT. Okay. But you can do that across all the disciplines in ONE and all the different martial arts that we offer. And even if you look at it, Adriano is the only man to ever knock out DJ. But then again, if you look at his skill set, you look at all the things that I described. What has happened over time, I think, and it's okay. There's entertainment side to it, but sometimes a fighter is either overlooked or underlooked because of his or her ability on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Or that didn't make sense. Let me rephrase that. Sometimes social media exaggerates how good a fighter actually is, because he or she is so good at self-promotion or tweeting or whatever it is, but they're actually not that great in real life, right? In the action. And vice versa. There's athletes who don't engage in, ridiculous tweets, who are unbelievable fighters. But anyways, long story cut short, I think, UFC athletes have had a very mixed record. Only DJ has had success in one. A lot of the UFC athletes, have lost or gotten knocked out or whatever. I mean, I think, again, when I look at it from a purely as a lifelong martial artist, I respect the UFC roster and I respect our roster. And I truly believe we would do very, very well against the UFC.
On that same topic of Demetrious Johnson, the way that he came to you guys was a little different, right? We got to finally see something that we've all been calling for a long time, and what would happen if there were an MMA trade, and that actually got to happen. Can you maybe share with us, was that just kind of a one and done? Was there ever a trade that got rejected, or one that you would even consider today? Anything? How often does that word come into your mind?
So I wasn't actually part of that whole thing. From my understanding, this is the what I've been told is that DJ, I think, had a few fights left in his UFC contract and wanted to leave and join one. And then I think he might have talked to Hunter or something like that. And then I think Matt Hume got involved. And then I think UFC had asked for, well, can we have Ben Askren? And Ben was retired for 2 years already because he had a hip injury. Basically, the cartilage or tendon wore down all the way down to the bone, and he could no longer compete. And then we said sure. And then shortly after, Ben, and a very, very injured and very retired Ben, went to the UFC, and a very prime DJ came over to one. So we thought it was a good trade. I don't know if it'll ever happen again. I have no clue. But it was a very interesting time in the history of mixed martial arts.
You're in a hotel right now. If you were to go downstairs to the bar and somebody asked you, what do you do? And you kind of explained what you do for a living. If they said they were interested in learning more about one, which couple fights would you maybe point them in the direction of that represent one's fighting spirit?
Well, for sure, one of our most popular fights was when we did the mixed rules super fight between Muay Thai world champion Rodtang and DJ, who I don't know, was he the world champion yet at the time for mixed martial arts? No, he wasn't. He was not. But it was first round was Muay Thai, second round was MMA, third round was Muay Thai, fourth round was MMA, and that it just was such an intriguing matchup. It blew up numbers all over the world, and people were so excited. It was a game. But I'd say one of our most fun events that come to mind was 1X, which was a double header. It literally went from, I think, my memory is going to be off here a little bit, but it was our 10th year anniversary show, hence the name 1X. And it went from 9 in the morning till midnight, or 8 in the morning to midnight straight. So literally around the clock, double header. So it was prime time in every time zone in the world. That was a really fun fight. So if you get a chance to watch that event, you'll get a good flavor because you had the very best strikers on the planet go at it, the very best grapplers, you had the very best world champion mixed martial arts go at it, and you had the very best intriguing matchups like the mixed super fights we've had. I think a really fun fight that comes to mind was when Angela Lee fought Mei Yamaguchi. She was a 19-year-old phenom at the time, and she became the youngest world champion in the history of any major global organization. That was a really fun fight, a barn burner. And again, because she was 19 years old, she was just it was just the historical context of it. I think watching any of Rodtang's fights or Super Lex fights, and I think these are all on our YouTube channel, by the way. So you can go check them out. And then, Mikey Musumichi's grappling match against Imanari, who's a legendary MMA fighter from Japan. That did alone 120 plus million views, organic video views, because it was such an intriguing submission grappling match in which Mikey submitted him in the end. It was an unbelievable one. And so that one did 100 plus million views, I think, on Facebook. When we posted it, it just went viral, which is, it broke all records for grappling. I mean, I think the most number of views a typical grappling match will get, even with the world champions like Gordon Ryan or Buchecha or Roger Gracie, would typically get 1 million, 2 million views maximum. So, you get all these different disciplines, and again, whether it's Muay Thai, kickboxing, or here's another one, another really good one. Watch the fight between Superbon versus Giorgio Petrosian for the kickboxing world title. Giorgio Petrosian is literally the greatest of all time. His record is I think a 97% win rate, something crazy like that. And he never gets touched. He's like Muhammad Ali in his prime. He never gets touched. And Superbon was the underdog challenger. And he'd been practicing all week. He'd been practicing this combination where he would counter strike and then throw a head kick. So he'd wait for the quote unquote, he was drilling Giorgio coming in, throwing some hooks, and then Giorgio pulling out. And then Superbon would do a body kick and a head kick. And he was practicing that combination all week. And he told my team, I'm going to nail this combination. Go watch that on YouTube. Literally, Giorgio Petrosian southpaw comes in, 1, 2, hook, and he pulls out. Superbon kicks the hand, drops the hand, out cold. Broke his jaw in, I think, 2 or 3 different places. That was spectacular. I mean, unbelievable fight. I have 2 of the greatest kickboxers on the planet. So again, whether it's kickboxing, whether it's Muay Thai, whether it's grappling, whether it's mixed martial arts, whether it's super fights, we have all these intriguing things and the commonalities that you were watching the very best of the best world championship fighters on the planet in each of these disciplines. And here's another thing I want to say to you guys. One has a 70% finish rate versus UFC and Bellator have about 35-40% finish rate. So that's another kind of interesting fact. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. One is the ethos and DNA of one as the home of martial arts, from the birthplace of martial arts, in Asia, 5,000-year history in Asia. Why was martial arts created? Martial arts was created to defend yourself in a self-defense situation, i.e. if you're at home and someone is trying to rob you, a robber comes at home, or you're on the street, someone wants to cause physical harm to you or mug you, whatever it is, you use self-defense skills. You see, in those situations, you would do your best either to because you have to survive, either run or you have to finish the fight. Right? The guy's trying to hurt you, you have to finish the fight. So the mindset of a true martial arts is finishing the fight. It's not laying prey. It's not gamification. If you look at the unified rule set, one of the less exciting things about it is that you can actually win a fight by the last 10 seconds of every round. You do a double leg and you lay and pray, and you win the round. And you do that for 3 rounds, you win the fight. But that's no different than a game of tag or hide and seek. That's not fighting. That's not martial arts. That's gamification of a physical activity, like tag or hide and seek. Martial arts is you're knocking your opponent out. You are choking your opponent out unconscious. You are forcing the submission. You're forcing a verbal tap. And that's something that's, you see it in one tremendously because of our 70% finish rate. But I think also the fact that the one adopts the global rule set, not the unified rule set. So on the global rule set, a few differences, like you can knee a grounded opponent. So the chances of you just laying and praying and being comfortable on the bottom or top is very low because you have knees coming at you. Even
Right.
when you're on the bottom, even though you're on top and side control, you can get kneed in the head, and vice versa. Okay, you can when you're not going to be comfortable just sitting there. So there's a lot of things like that create action. Another,
And then they judge the whole fight too, right? We're keeping those.
yes.
Yeah.
Another
Very
thing
important.
about one is that you judge the whole fight. So what does that mean? It's as if it's one giant round. And why is that important? Okay, let's take a street fight. Let's say George and I get into a fight, and I'm jabbing him 20 times for the first 3 minutes, and then George lands this massive overhand right and rocks me, and I've almost lost consciousness. Okay, and then my friends have to stop the fight. When you look at that in its entirety, even though I land a jab or even a 1-2 20 times for 3 minutes, but George rocked me where I'm literally almost unconscious, who won the fight? George won the fight. So
Mhm.
that's
Damn
the
it.
difference. Okay, it's a street fight mentality. It's a martial arts finishing mentality. It's not about pitter pattering. Unfortunately, the 10-point must system for MMA, the unified rule set, allows for pitter pattering to win a fight. I'm not saying everybody pitter patters, by the way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that's why you see folks like UFC and Bellator with a much lower finish rate than at one. It's because we have the ethos and the DNA of martial arts coming from the birthplace of martial arts, but also the global rule set and the fact that judging is scored in its entirety of the round, like a street fight would. That, if you pitter patter me 1-2 combinations for 3 rounds straight, but in that last minute, I land 4 monster bombs on you, and you're like staggered, and your nose is broken, you're bleeding like that. Under one rules, you would win the fight. Under unified rules, the pitter patterer would have won the fight. So that is the difference. One is gamification of a physical activity. One is real fights, real martial arts, finishes.
Yeah, I've seen that, man. You guys do have a high finishing percentage. It's very exciting. The rule set is different. They also look after their fighters with the hydration system. They're sending in fighters a lot more hydrated and healthy, in my opinion. Hopefully that's something we can adopt here soon. I know the state of California has kind of done something like that. So good on you guys for introducing that. One last thing, Chatri. I know we're a little over. I apologize for that. But
Right.
earlier in the week, I know you did some media and you said, I'll be in LA meeting with Francis. Has that meeting occurred yet? And if so, can you update us on it?
No, I am meeting Francis the day after tomorrow. So I'm out here in LA already doing media interviews all day.
Okay.
Some business meetings, etc. And then I'm meeting Francis on Saturday. So today's Thursday, LA. Yeah, I'm still a little bit lagged in a blur. But yes, I'm meeting him on Saturday.
You already know you got the financial. You can cover that. It's just a matter of the other stuff he's looking for. But you already know you're in the ball game as far as the money goes.
Right. So yeah, we will give the highest offer, but that still doesn't mean we will be happy or he will be happy, right? Meaning that we have our asks and he has our asks that are non-financial as well. So
Right.
everything has to work, and I think it's very important for Francis and I to sit down one-on-one and have heart-to-heart, because I really, when you meet somebody in real life, you can really get a sense on the energy and whether you guys would get along, all the kind of stuff. And with a big signing like Francis, you have to make sure on both sides, on his side and our side, that everyone's comfortable, right? That's going to work well. What I don't want is to have a situation where we sign him and the relationship breaks down materially such that we're not able to fully maximize the opportunity set that's in front of us. So I'd say we're very close, but I'd also say we're very far from getting a deal done. Close because both of us are very, very serious, and but far because you have to work through all the different issues before saying, yeah, we have a deal or we don't have a deal. And
Chatri,
I'm sure there are things that Francis that are no-go deals, no deal breakers that he would walk away from, and they're deal breakers for us too that we would walk away from the deal. So we're still at that stage. I know Francis said he wants to make a decision quite soon, and I genuinely don't know which direction he's going to choose. So I genuinely don't know. So
okay,
but I want to say let's stay focused on May 5th, yes, because
May 5th, sick card. Part 3 of Demetrious Johnson versus Adriano Moraes. Both fights were awesome. They both finished each other. Road Tang Jitmunyan is going to be fighting Edgar Juarez Tavares. Stan Fairtex against Elise Anderson. Do not sleep on that one. The debut of Roberto Soldic. Sage Northcutt back after 4 years. On the song, a former champion over at One Championship. He's getting down. RDR, he's getting down. Loan Tainanis covered him for a long time. He gets down. It's all on Amazon Prime. If you got it, flood it. Next Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. The fights are free. What more do you want? It's a sick card. It's going to be a great event. Watch out how One gets down with the production as well. They really highlight the fighters, the production, the fans. It's a great experience. Folks, you're going to enjoy it. Chatri, while in LA, get Mexican food, get some Lakers gear. and sign Francis if it's meant to be. Take care, man.
Thank you so much, Jordan. I gotta say, you do my job better than I do. I owe you.
All right, brother. Take care. We'll see you.
Take care, guys. Thanks.